Hey, folks, John Cantera, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter here, and welcome back to Stop the Scam. Unfortunately, like last week, our scheduled guest has backed out at the last moment. So this week, we are just going to have a conversation on some stuff that we've encountered last week. Kate and I are. But we invite people to send comments to us about some of the things that they've seen or comment about the cases we're about to talk about, so that you can kind of sound off a little bit. You know what? I'd really like to test whether or not you guys can actually call in, because it'd be interesting to get people's opinions on this. So here's what I'm going to go ahead and do. I'm going to put up a phone number here. And no, not that. Give me 1 second here. Let me type this in. Fun stuff about doing live shows.
Mm-hmm.
Call in. There we go. Let's go ahead and put the phone number out there. If you want to talk about fraud in the industry, give us a call. We're going to have the line open for the next hour, and we'll be able to talk about whatever case you've got going on. You can comment about some of the cases we're talking about. Our phone number is 912-346-8456. Go ahead and call in. Now, mind you, I don't have a service that screens these calls. So when you call, you're going straight on the air. So be wary about that. Kate, it's Monday. How has your day been so far?
It's okay. So we've actually been struggling for the last, I don't know, this is like week 2 of just struggling to find anything that pays decent. I don't know what's going on, but the last 2 weeks have just been horrible.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, we know that there was a spike in rates because of the Blitz week that we had, and that was pretty decent. I know I did fairly well that week, but you're right. The last 2 weeks have been utter hell. We have seen rates drop dramatically. We are seeing a reduction in the amount of freight that's out there. We are seeing reduction in rates. This is getting kind of bad. We now have more tariffs going into effect. We're doing a weak report on jobs numbers, which also are leading towards potential increase in inflation. So there's a lot of bad economic news that's come out in the last week. So that's been kind of crazy. And I think it's only exacerbating the issues that are going on in the transportation industry. You know, between that and all the fraud that we deal with in the industry, it's just gone absolutely insane. I was dealing with a case earlier today, and I'd love to get people's comments about this. Now, we know that there are direct shippers out there who hire carriers directly to be able to move freight. Now, these direct shippers often pay cash, Zelle, what have you.
Or net 30.
Yeah, all sorts of ways. But they don't have a broker authority, and they're not required to. Direct shippers are not required to. But they'll issue rate confirmations. They get DAT accounts and post things up on load boards and whatnot whenever they got freight they have to move. And a prime example would be a construction company. So I was talking to a group of people earlier today. They hauled a load for a construction company coming out of Alaska. And the rate that they had for it was a pretty damn good rate, considering what the cargo was, the equipment, and all that. It was an appropriate rate. But when they got to the delivery location, somebody walked out with a check in hand to give to the driver which this wasn't supposed to be a COD load, by the way, for about 20% of what the rate confirmation was for.
Not 20% less, 20% of what the rate was originally supposed to be.
Exactly. I'll go ahead and I'll use the numbers. The rate was supposed to be $11,000, and the guy walked out with a check for $2,700. So, huge difference here, and some very angry carriers involved in this, and I sure as hell don't blame them. Now, when they got a hold of the shipper to figure out who the real broker was, they found out, well, the shipper themselves, they hired a carrier. Turns out the carrier double brokered the load. Duh. And the shipper was scratching their head because this is the 20th time this year, 20th time since January that they've had a load double brokered. Now, I don't know about you, but if I have my own DOT number, which this shipper does, then I'm somewhat aware of the fraud problem in this industry. I'm somewhat aware that after one or two times a load that I've a direct brokered to a carrier, if it got double brokered, I probably would be looking to find out why is it happening and what I can do to defend myself. But after
Which generally people do after the first time that happens, because it's a big deal.
Yeah. No, not the guys are actually, I'm loving it. These guys have been done 20 times this year. And they're like, well, we'll pay you what we agreed to the original carrier for, but that's all we're paying you. And it makes me wonder, is this the evolution of a new form of fraud committed by shippers against the transportation industry? And this is something that I'm going to open up a debate with FMCSA investigators on, because this is an issue, I think, that can spiral out of control very, very quickly. I think if you get carrier or shippers who hire direct carriers, not caring whether or not it's double brokered, they care enough that they won't pay the scammer when it's delivered, and they'll make sure they only pay the real carrier, but they'll only pay the real carrier a very minuscule rate because that's what the double broker originally charged. That's going to save shippers thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars and really screw the hell out of carriers. So this now brings in a new conundrum for the industry as a whole. What guarantees are there that the shippers are acting in an ethical manner? Because clearly in this case, it's not happening. There is no freaking way in my mind at all that this particular shipper did not know what's going on. It's impossible. No one is that stupid to get double brokered 20 times in 8 months, costing carriers thousands of dollars. In this particular case, this particular carrier lost almost $9,000. $9,000. I mean, seriously. And you think that's not possible? It was coming out of Alaska, so I mean, that's what, $4,000 in fuel alone. I mean, seriously, this is insanity. I've never seen anything like this before. So, is this the birth of a new form of fraud that's going to run through this industry? And what, if anything, should federal regulators do to make sure that shippers who hire carriers directly are being ethical in how they conduct business? Man, I was thrown for a loop. I was on the phone with this guy for over an hour today. I could not believe for the life of me that this kind of thing happened. I mean, I thought it was a simple double broker case, but when I realized that it was a direct shipper scenario, it blew my mind.
Hmm.
Absolutely blew my mind. I have seen a lot of things in this industry that this one really just took the cake. And if it isn't dumb things like this, freight guards are another one. You know, the carrier actually asked me, they're like, well, should we just go ahead and take the money and then rip the guy a new one and all this stuff? And I was like, no, 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 no. You don't want to do that because, you know, what if he freight guards you? You know, then it just hurts you even more. Take the money, walk away. Let people like me worry about throwing them under the bus and giving them public exposure because, oh, I will. Don't get me wrong. In about a week, I'll release the name of the company that's done this. And trust by then I will have had extensive conversations with DOT personnel on this one. So, oh yeah, we're going to stir the pot on this one pretty bad. But in the meantime, I'm just absolutely flabbergasted that this kind of thing happened. Now it was a step deck load. It was a full load, 44 feet. So it was pretty much a dedicated. I think it was came out to what, 50 cents a mile or something like that as a dedicated load. Are you fucking kidding me? I don't know. I throw my hands up. That was just insane. What crazy stuff have you seen this week, Kate?
Well, I feel I really need to start taking notes because stuff happens all the time, and I'm like, I think to myself, man, I should really like put together a newsletter that we can just like open up with and say, oh, things that have happened this week or last week or whatever. And stuff happens, and I just never write it down. And then when it comes time, I'm like, man, I done forgot. So, but today, something I dealt with today that isn't a big deal. It just was really annoying. We've already been having a hard time getting people moving or keeping them moving. And I had a guy that was in, Waynesburg, PA, which is like the southwest corner of Pennsylvania. So not a bad place at all. I called on a freaking load that was like 40 feet, 6,000 pounds, a well-known broker and a generally respected broker. I've worked with them a lot. And I asked about it and she gave me the, oh, what can you do this for? Which I fucking hate. And I gave her my lowest, absolute lowest. And she said it was 600 miles. And she said, oh, nope, I can only do 900 on this. She said even a $1,200 rate for 600 miles she's like, those are full flatbed rates. I can do 9. I'm like, are you high? In what world is less than $2 a mile a full flatbed rate? Out of that area. Now I understand like dead areas. You have to play the game, right? When you go to certain areas, or you might go to Florida for $3 a mile and come out for $1.50 or whatever. That's just a dead area, and that's just the game that you have to play sometimes. Not in that area. I wouldn't DoorDash somebody's fucking food 600 miles for $900.
That's a damn good thought. You're absolutely right on that. The big question I have is how in God's name did we get here? How did we get to this point in the industry?
I want to tie into that because I have always thought that, in my opinion, I don't know how true this is. In my opinion, when COVID came around and rates got pretty damn good, people were all excited about it. A whole bunch of people heard about it, whatever. They didn't have their CDL. It didn't matter. So those people went out and they bought a dually pickup truck and a fucking flatbed. And they're like, I'm just going to go run freight. This is great. And they did. but they didn't know what they needed to, they didn't understand the uh, expenses that come with that. So you have however many tens of thousands of people that have no idea what they're doing, taking loads for $1.40, $1.50, $1.80 a mile, and thinking that it's great. So you have to just wait. For a long time, I said, I guess we just have to wait for these people to go under, because they're gonna go under. Nobody, you can't support your business like that with that kind of income. So for a long time, I'm like, we just have to, try to do whatever we can and wait until these guys just go under. And it just seems like it's a perpetual thing. It's just not ending. Like it's, I don't know. And I don't know how true that is. Like I said, that's just my own personal opinion. I think a whole bunch of people came in and oversaturated it, and were taking just whatever. Not enough people saying no. And that's how you get here.
Well, I can understand the get rich quick mentality. It is the American dream, let's face it. But when you don't understand your own costs, all you do is you shoot yourself in the foot. And the worst part is that you have all of these gurus and schools out here on YouTube. And yes, I get the irony. We're on YouTube too. Who are sitting there trying to quote unquote educate these potential people into getting into a career running hot shots, box trucks, etc., non-CDL. And they don't teach them how to run a business. What these carriers are looking at is, well, let's see, next week I've got my insurance payment due, so I need to generate $2,000 this week to be able to pay my insurance bill. They forget the fact that they have a cost per mile that they have to meet in order to cover all their expenses, like fuel and other stuff. And of course, they put their fuel on a credit card, so that's not going to be due for a couple more weeks, but they're not thinking about that right now. All they care about is that bill that's due this week. So they'll make whatever money they can get, go however far they have to go, but they want to get that money in to pay that bill. So when the next bill comes due the following week, they don't have the money. And now they're back up against the same thing. Their backs against the wall. They're taking whatever they get their hands on. And that the cycle just perpetuates itself until eventually they go out of business. The problem is you have 600 new carriers every week getting a new authority. Every single week, that's 600 more suckers coming into this industry who probably should not be here. That is 600 new suckers who are automatic bait to the scammers that are out there. Because let's face it, most of us who have been in this business for a while, we know what the scams look like. We know how to spot them on the load boards. We know how to spot them on their rate confirmations. We know how to spot them on the BOLs. We know that. It's the guys who don't. But every week, we're still creating 600 new guys out there who are instant suckers ready to be scammed in a heartbeat. And this just continues to perpetuate. Forget for a second the strategic theft. Forget for a second the guys who are sitting there robbing shipping containers right off of the back of a train. Forget that for a second. We're just talking about people in the industry learning how to do a job, how to run a business. We're supposed to be the backbone of the country.
Mm-hmm.
How can we be the backbone of the country when we have unregulated people coming in and out, non-freaking stop, and who don't know what the hell they're doing? All because they watched a 20-minute video on YouTube that made them think, oh, hell yeah, this would be a great idea. A great way for me to make money and get rich real fast. Okay, let's go take out a second mortgage on the house and buy us a rig.
Yeah. Oh, and then, hey, you can pay your second mortgage. So congratulations.
Forget the fact that trucking right now pays worse than it ever has. If you look at truckers in the 80s, their salary when you adjusted it for inflation would be the equivalent of about 150,000, 130 to 150,000 today in today's dollars. Okay. How much is the average truck driver making right now? 40,
Not that much.
50?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not even half. It's insane how low our drivers are being paid. And for all the regulatory bullshit they have to go through, all of the training they're supposed to have, all the insurance to carry, all of the regulations that they operate under. And we're constantly being asked to do more with less over and over and over again. It's the curse of the industry. And the worst part is that shippers feed into this because they want their rates to go down. They want to try to save money. Brokers feed into this because the brokers want to keep the customer, so they'll keep chasing the rates down the hole. But damn it, they're going to maintain their margins, so they don't wind up being the one without a chair. Okay, so the only one who's left is the actual carrier, and they're the ones who are getting screwed every which way from Tuesday. Whether it's shippers trying to scam carriers, such as the case that I was talking about earlier today, or brokers trying to scam carriers. And I don't think most brokers are actively trying to scam a carrier, but the operation side does not have any control over the sales side at a brokerage. In most brokerages, sales generates the freight, and based on what that number is, that's all the broker has to work with when they go looking for carriers. So sales low bids the freight with the shipper. So the shipper's happy because they're getting cheap freight. The sales guy doesn't give a shit because he gets a commission one way or the other. The broker, he doesn't give a shit because he gets a commission one way or the other. And the carrier is the one at the far end of the stick who has to absorb all the cost of the shipment and hopefully have some left over to be able to pay themselves, which normally they don't. It's a sad state of affairs. It's a sad industry.
I also think there needs to, and I can't imagine anybody would disagree with this. There needs to be a regulation against people. There is no regulation about who can come into the U.S. market. There's no regulation hardly on who can obtain an authority, whether it's a broker authority or a carrier authority. And I think that plays a big part in driving things down too.
Well, I disagree. There are some barriers to entry. Some. Okay. For example, MAP 21 requires that brokers have to be trained and experienced in order to get a broker authority. However, even FMCSA will agree that as of now, MAP 21 was 2012. So here it is 13 years later. There is still no measure of what is proper training for a broker. Therefore, there's no way to measure that, despite how many times FMCSA has been told with a way to do it. So there is regulatory issues out there to try to minimize it, but it hasn't been acted on.
Well, I mostly mean the foreign people that want to work in our market. And I don't have anything against those people personally, but I don't think if you're not physically here that you should be operating within this, in trucking specifically. I don't think that that's appropriate because you have to know and understand our market and our cost of living and what it takes to uphold an integral piece of our country. And I don't think that that's something that you can really understand from 8,000 miles away. And also a lot of their money is not the same. It's worth a lot more wherever they are. So a very minuscule amount to us is worth a lot more to them. So in that way, I think that drives rates down.
So
I think
let
there
me
are
ask you this.
carriers. Mhm.
How much of an impact were you expecting to see when it was decided that there would be enforcement on the English proficiency requirement? Did you expect to see any kind of impact off of that?
I mean, maybe like minimal. And I say this as somebody who takes on several drivers from like the Laredo area, and most of them are Hispanic, right? But I don't really come across too many. I have experienced some people that don't speak English, but it's very minuscule. So, I mean, I don't know what that looks like on like a super large scale. I know places like C.H. Robinson hire, and I know this from being in shipping. I was a shipper, not, didn't own the company or anything, but I did work in shipping. So I had direct communication with the drivers. And most of the time it was people like C.H. Robinson that will outsource. They'll bring on people to drive for them. And they agree to pay for their CDL schooling if they work for them for a certain amount of time. And those guys are generally foreigners. So I've personally encountered a few people when I was in shipping that didn't speak very good English. I could still talk to them, but it was very surface level. So I don't know. I don't really know the answer to that. I don't really know if I can't really say whether or not I was expecting any kind of impact. I would guess like relatively minimal, but again, I'm a peon carrier, Nobody, I'm not some massive carrier that hires a bunch of these international guys. So I don't know what that looks like to a company that does do that. I don't know if that affects them. Maybe that affects them in terms of who they can bring on and hire.
Yeah, I've not seen any stats in the last month about how many carriers were taken out of service because of the proficiency requirement. I'd like to see that at some point. If anyone knows any
I
of that
don't,
information, throw that up in the comments, please.
but the carriers that I'm speaking of previously about who can obtain an authority and things like that, those aren't people. We're talking about people in whatever other country that can speak English because English is a second language in most places. It's like the most widely spoken language in the world. So most people can speak English, but they're not physically here. That's the issue. They're not physically here. They hire drivers to drive for their authority that are physically here, but they are not.
So let me ask you this. We know that there are a bunch of brokers out there who outsource carrier sales. Those are the people who are talking to the carriers at the brokerages, who outsource carrier sales to overseas agents. I happen to know of several brokerages who hire communications companies out of, you guessed it, Eastern Europe to be that interface between the brokerage and the carrier.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's an acceptable thing within the industry, then why is there so much angst against Eastern Europeans as carriers?
I don't think that should be an acceptable thing in the industry. And it's not because there's any qualm against international people, but I think that plays into attempting to save money. Why do people hire anybody from anywhere other than here? Because it's cheaper. It's cheaper for them to pay people who live in another country where their dollar is worth, what would that be? Dollar is worth less. They can pay them less and they can still make a very decent living. Whereas if they paid somebody here to do the same job, they'd be paying a lot more. It's a lot more money out of the company's pocket. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think any of that's right. I don't like any of that. But that's why. It's not because I have to talk to some person in India when I call customer service. I don't care about that. I care about the reason why it's happening. It's happening because people are greedy and they want to get the cheapest way out. They want to spend the least amount of money to get a job done. I'm not saying
Kate,
that's not
that's
normal.
capitalism.
Okay. We're not going to get into that.
Yeah, I'm being facetious saying that. Yeah, I am not happy with the influx of foreign operators within the industry, operating, as you pointed out, from overseas to try to manage things that are going on here domestically within the country. That causes me a lot of concern. Another thing that causes me a lot of concern is AI. I was over at Matt's back in March in Louisville, and what drew my attention a lot to AI is there were a few different vendors there who were talking about AI dispatchers. Now,
That shit pisses me off.
I get it. When I call a broker trying to book a load for one of my carriers, and I'm met with an AI answering service, I get it.
RXO, whatever you want to fucking call them. They're doing that. And it's annoying. It's annoying because you don't actually you can't, you're just wasting your time because then the AI thing, like Anna, the girl that works with me, was telling me today, she's like, pretty sure I just spoke to a fucking AI that entire time. They were like, okay, after asking all kinds of questions, okay, I'll send this over to the team. Thank you, Anna. Like, and then nothing. So we're wasting our time.
I'm
we
seeing
could just
that a lot
talk to a
too.
real person and be like, hey, can we run the fucking load or not?
Now, I haven't, most often when I'm talking to a broker who uses an AI screening service,
Is not a bad thing. That is not a bad thing.
That I'm okay with, because what they do is they do an MC check, and if the MC meets their guidelines, they may say, hey, this is the rate that we're offering. And if you agree to that rate, they push you over to to a real human being. And from there, I can sit there and say, yeah, I'd really like to get, another 20% out of this. Your rate's a little low. This is why I think so. Can you help me out with the rate at all? But at least you can have that conversation. I hate the AIs that sit there and say, and look at your phone number and say, oh, well, your phone number is currently associated with this MC number from 20 years ago, which is no longer in service. Therefore, I'm sorry, we're not able to work with you. Click. And no discussion is had, or anything like that. That drives me insane. I represent 5 different carriers legally, by the way, folks. You can do that legally. I represent 5 different carriers legally. And when I call in to, what is it? Yellow Consultants is one of the ones that does that. And they say, oh, your phone number is associated with an MC that we're not capable of using. Goodbye. Click.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jesus, come on, guys. Or how about the the AIs? You hear typing in the background. You hear indiscriminate voices in the background.
Yeah,
they use different kinds of slang in their speech. Hey man, what's up? What you think you can haul this today? Come on, man. Can you meet me at this rate? I mean, they try everything they can to make the mannerisms of the AI sound human, and it sounds really bad when it does it, by the way. Okay.
Yeah.
The cadence is off just a little bit. You can tell when it's an AI and not a human being, but that drives me absolutely insane. Now, if a carrier, going back to my original point about Matt's, if a carrier hires one of these AI dispatch systems or uses one of these AI dispatch systems, how's a broker going to respond? When a broker picks up the phone, starts negotiating a load, then realizes they're talking to an AI. Brokers, anybody got any comments about that? Throw something in the comments. Give me a call. I'd like to hear your thoughts on broker. If I was going through that, I'd hang up on the carrier, because my big problem with AI especially from a carrier perspective, is how do you know it's not a double broker or some other kind of scammer from overseas who's trying to use an AI with an American voice just to get their hands on the cargo?
Or just spoof the number.
Well, they spoof the number all the time anyway. I mean, can anyone trust anything they're hearing on the phone anymore? Half the time, I don't trust what I'm hearing on the phone. I mean, hell, like half the time it's an AI. Half the time, it's another broker just trying to pull something over on me. Thankfully, I know most of the tricks. So most brokers aren't usually able to get something on me. But still, dude, really? It drives me insane, the state of affairs in this industry. And the culprit, the real culprit in all this, in my opinion, is FMCSA. It's FMCSA because FMCSA cannot or will not enforce the regulations that help protect the industry. And as a result, you have all these bad guys coming in. They may not even be bad guys. They just may be new guys who don't know any better. But they might as well be, just like your typical scammer anyway, because they cause enough disruption and enough problems in the industry that they're not worth it. I mean, why else do brokers sit there and say, oh, well, if you don't have 6 months, we're not willing to work with you. You don't have a year of authority, we're not willing to work with you. Well, it's because they want to work with people that know what the hell they're actually doing. And as unfair as that may be, because you could be a 20-year owner operator, who decided to finally go out on your own and get your own authority, yet you're treated like a 24-year-old new kid, who doesn't know jack from anything else. I could get so much more vulgar about that, but I chose to take the high road on that description.
Go for it.
No, I've made a reputation of myself as a professional. I'm going to try to stay that way. But that's neither here nor there. But then it also goes back into my entire rant from God knows how long about freight guards. I'm terrified of the coming upgrade to the Carrier 411 system. And I don't know how many people actually understand this. We made a big stink of this back in October of last year. If you remember, Kate, in October of last year, Carrier 411 started making changes on their website that were very subtle. Very few of us picked up on it when it happened, but we caught it.
Just said.
Sorry,
John. That was my mom.
So when Carrier 411 announced that they were making a bunch of changes to their platform, now those changes still have not gone into effect that I am aware of. Okay, but I'm a dispatcher. I would never be able to get a Carrier 411 account, so I won't know when it actually goes into effect. But back in October, they listed all these changes that were going to happen. All these changes are still going to happen. Adds 23, I think, new categories that you can get a freight guard for are being added. And if you read the list, which is available on Carrier 411's website, if you read the list, basically a carrier could sneeze while they're on the phone and not say, excuse me, and they can get a freight guard. I mean, seriously, any possible thing that could ever possibly go wrong, a carrier can get a freight guard for, to the point where freight guards have no meaning. But let's face it, a freight guard today is an automatic company killer. It's a killer.
Depends on what it's for, but yeah. I mean, I do mostly agree, but it does depend on what it's for.
For the most, I have seen.
I lose you, John.
Okay. Hey, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Apparently my internet glitched. It's been storming like crazy here in the Florida Panhandle. So, it's been kind of weird from a connection standpoint. The last, I don't know, dozen freight guard cases I have worked have been the stupidest crap in the world. In most of those cases, there was no contract or there was no assigned rate confirmation. It usually involved a carrier canceling on a load within a couple of minutes of originally agreeing to it because of whatever reason. But then the broker files a freight guard for canceling on the load. I get it. If it was like last minute of the day and the carrier was like, hey, I'm not going to make it today, but if you pay me an extra $500, I'll find a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about situations like that because that's clear extortion. No, we're talking about 8:00 in the morning, book a load. And then at 8:05, look, I just talked to my driver. He's actually down today. He's getting the truck serviced. I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to take the load. And then boom, freight guard. Insane. You got all freaking day to get the load covered. You're throwing a freight guard down for that? Really?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have seen so many stupid freight guards. And I was actually filling in a comment on the topic on LinkedIn earlier today. I was in the middle of writing it when I realized, oh shit, the show's about to start. So I probably ought to go and get into the studio. Freight guards, I think, are one of the worst things that ever happened to this industry. Carrier 411 itself, I think, is a good thing. It's a good platform. It provides decent information. It's not always accurate, but for the most part, it is. But the freight guard program, to me, is what causes all the problems in this industry.
Because I think it started off with good intentions.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that was like, was it 2000 or 2004?
I think it was 2000.
And back then we didn't have these issues.
Correct. And I think overall, it has a good purpose. Even the freight guard program. The problem is that you have a 20-year carrier who has a maintenance issue and has to cancel a load. And then you got a 2-week broker who sits there and says, oh, you canceled a load on me? Well, screw you. Here's your freight guard. Boom. And there ain't a goddamn thing a 20-year carrier can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
That is a problem for me. What else is a problem is that freight guards or any other review, report, whatever you want to call it, whether it's MCP, RMIS, highway, etc. And if any of you guys are listening, please understand, I respect your platforms, but the review process needs, to be reviewed. There's no evidence. No broker is required to provide any kind of evidence other than a description that matches the accusation. No evidence whatsoever. Yet these reviews and reports have the ability to usurp the authority of the FMC and get a carrier completely shut down. How in God's name does FMCSA allow a broker to have that much power? Number one. Number two, how in God's name can a broker get that much power? I sat there and I read the Carrier 411 website earlier today, and they indicate that they screen the Carrier 411 reports, the freight guards. Folks, let's clarify what that word means. That word does not mean they verify the incident. That word does not mean that they've investigated the incident. All it does is one of 4 people in the office there at Carrier 411 looked at the post and said, does the comment support the accusation? Yes or no? Not, is there proof of it? Not, did it really happen? Not, is this an emotional response? None of that. That's all they're looking for is does the verbiage match? Done. Game over. I'm sorry. How in God's name can a carrier be destroyed over something like that? How do we as an industry allow for something to have that much of an impact? I talk to many brokers just there and say, oh, I see a freight guard. I read it and then I make my decision. Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be.
But most of them are not like that.
Correct. Most of them, they see, oh, the carrier has a freight guard. We're not using them. I don't give a damn what the freight guard says. You know, I mean, hell, when the new upgrades go into place, oh, wait a minute. One of the freight guard categories, one of the new categories is they have a DNU. So a broker's going through, oh, well, we can put freight guards against anyone. We have a DNU.
And
well,
okay,
DNU 1,000 carriers. Let's just go ahead and throw freight guards on all 2,000 of these carriers.
Let me throw out something. So as a carrier, I have personally been placed on people's DNU because my insurance renewed and they don't have a new certificate of insurance. It can be something as small as that.
Mm-hmm. How many carriers get DNU'd by TQL every day?
Yeah.
I mean, TQL, because they're one of the only carriers that are one of the only brokers who utilize a new carrier. You know, granted, they don't use freight guards. They don't file reports anywhere public. It's an internal DNU. Anytime they do it, it's internal only. So it only affects the carrier's work with TQL. I can respect that because as a business, you have the right to decide who you will and will not do business with. Perfectly fine. Perfectly legal. Nothing wrong with that. But when you try to make the decision for everybody else, whether or not someone should use a carrier, now you got a problem. And that's just my own personal opinion. You know, take that for what it's worth. I've seen brokers file freight guards against carriers because a carrier wrote a bad review about a broker on Google.
Yeah.
Really? Is a bad Google review going to cost broker business? Because I guarantee a freight guard will cost a carrier business all day long. All day long. I mean, a lot of this stuff is just so freaking petty. Not only is it petty, but it fosters the distrust that exists between carriers and brokers. It erodes trust, the public trust in the industry. And it gives scammers an avenue into the industry by impersonation, knowing they can destroy carriers and brokers by impersonating them. Because, oh, well, if they get a freight guard against them, not only did we just steal their money, now we get to fuck them over and close them down.
Mm-hmm.
And these scammers can freely operate in that space, in that area of mistrust, and it just makes it worse. Guys, the freight guards have got to stop. The freight guards have just got to freaking stop. Just freaking stop it, please. I mean, the only recourse has against a negative freight guard, especially one that's not earned, is to sue the broker that filed it.
And then you get a freight guard for suing them.
And then you get a freight guard for initiating legal action against them. Yeah. You know, I mean, holy hell. Oh, by the way, and if you go to sue a broker over it, guarantee you're spending at least 5 figures, usually 6 figures, to go through the case with no guarantee of success, by the way. Because I guarantee if the owner of Carrier 411 gets called as a expert witness, he will definitely go. He will definitely take the case and go and argue why that carrier is a scumbag and then some. Because that's what he does. And normally the broker's going to win those cases. The few times that I've seen carriers win, oh, they've won big. Oh my God, they've won big. Because not only did they win, they got paid up for all their lost business, and then they still had the punitive damages, which can range anywhere from 2 to 10 times the regular damages.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're talking millions of dollars because the broker knowingly lied to file a freight guard, especially if it can be proven in court. So I get it. 90% of the freight guards that are out there are legitimate. I get it. I won't argue those. What I argue are the emotional ones. The ones that are emotionally driven because somebody's having a bad day and they need to take it out on somebody, or the broker's trying to save face with their customer and they got to show they did something about it in order to save their relationship with their customer. So they'll throw the freight guard on anybody just to save their own skin. That's the stuff that I can't abide. That's the stuff that really chaps my hide. You know, I'm just glad that at this point, Carrier 411 is capable of screening the bad guys who are trying to get Carrier 411 accounts just so they can throw freight guards against people. You know, I'm glad they're able to stop the scammers from getting accounts. But my God, this has just been turned into
Jerry Springer for great.
Yeah. Jerry Springer. There you go. It turns into a Jerry Springer thing, and I don't know how best to handle it. These are the things that keep me up at night, folks. You know, when we don't have a guest, we go into rant mode. So I apologize. But these are the things that drive me insane in this industry. Freight guards, the unbelievable depth of fraud that goes on in this industry. I can even sometimes admire a creative scam. I can sometimes admire it. You know, it's really clever and all that. But damn, there ain't a way that people aren't scamming this industry left and right. You know, but it's a civil matter. Is what we always keep hearing about when it comes to law enforcement. Oh, it's a civil matter, so we're not touching it. Or FMCSA. You know, FMCSA had a ruling against them at one point that they can't levy fines against levy civil fines. It's in the regulation that says they can, yet a court's telling them they can't. I hope we get that resolved. Derek Bars is the incoming director of the FMCSA. I don't know if anyone got to watch his confirmation hearing a couple weeks ago. It was good. Those who don't know who Derek Bars is, please look up his resume. He was a Florida Highway Patrol who did a lot of enforcement throughout his career. This is probably the first person that actually understands the industry who is about to occupy the position. First time in a couple of decades. So, I'm very supportive of his nomination, and I hope to see good things come from him. In fact, folks, you heard it from me. I will be interviewing Director Bars on December 11th in Jacksonville, Florida. We will be live streaming that on behalf of the Freight Fraud Task Force. So be sure to keep your eyes open for that as we go into December, because we will be addressing a lot of the fraud issues out there. I will be handing over several of the active investigations that Kate and I have been working on, such as our good friend, Sean Mabe. Yeah, Sean, we're not done with you. Don't worry. Someone will be knocking on your door soon. We need to see something happen in this industry. This industry needs relief from the fraud. It needs help against the guys out there who are running without insurance. It needs help with the guys out there who are running without the right licensure. It needs help. And I don't care if the carrier is one of those types of people who they got into this and didn't realize that they need this, that, and the other. You know, you get into this industry, you want to call yourself a transportation professional, know what that means. And if you don't know, then you should be drummed out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. There are way too many people in this industry who probably should not be here. I guarantee
Oh, I
there.
agree.
I would say probably 50% of the people watching think I should not be here. I respect that. I'll respect that.
It shows you
I
have some
disagree with
concern.
I want something to be done, which is one of the reasons why I'm part of the Freight Fraud Task Force. We stood that up because FMCSA is not doing their part.
Mm-hmm.
Fully through the task force, we can get FMCSA back online doing what they're supposed to be doing, and then help them go the rest of the way to wean out as much of the fraud as we can. It's going to be hard to root out the Eastern European syndicates. It's going to be hard to root out the Mexican cartels. It's going to be hard to root those people out. We get that. But at the very least, we can put together education programs to make sure that carriers, brokers, etc., know what to look for and can avoid those issues. There was a great post I saw earlier today. God, I wish I remember who the hell ran it. They were talking about some very common sense things that people need to be doing, from routing to how they manage security within their trucking companies, within warehouses, etc. Very common sense stuff, and these few things can take a massive bite out of cargo theft and other fraud that's going on in the industry. I mean, for example, the one thing that I always tell people whenever they ask me what's the best way to stop fraud in the industry, have the guy on the freaking forklift get off of his butt and look at the side of the freaking truck.
Mm-hmm.
Right there. Right freaking there. And if the side of the truck has the right numbers written on cardboard, taped to the side of the truck, you may not want to let that truck load. I'm just saying, how many times have we seen, and brokers, this is when you're going to start agreeing with me here. How many times have we seen carriers sit there and say, oh, they're leased on to us? Do y'all know what that actually means, carriers? Do you know what's required when you say those words? Do you know there's an actual regulation that governs that when you use those words? 49 CFR 376.12. Look it up, please. Such as insurance requirements. Who's supposed to hold insurance for an owner-operator when that owner-operator is leasing onto a carrier? The regulation's very clear. The carrier has to carry the owner-operator's vehicle liability and cargo insurance. Now, it doesn't mean that the carrier can't sit there and charge that back to the owner-operator in their settlement every week. They absolutely can. It just needs to be stated that way in the contract. But the motor carrier is required to carry the vehicle liability and the cargo coverage for the owner-operator on the carrier's policy. Mm-hmm. Done. It's not supposed to be the carrier tells the Sprinter van, you have to get your own vehicle liability and cargo coverage and make us a certificate holder and additionally insured. Wrong answer. So insurance companies, please make sure they are doing it right. And if they're not, call them out on it. If you're an owner-operator leased onto a carrier, so if you're one of Kate's drivers, call Kate's insurance company. Make sure you're actually listed on her policy. Make sure your vehicle's listed on her policy. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Kate, don't mean to just call you out, but I know you do it right. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on this show.
Hey, my drivers get a whole ass binder full of all of their crap. They get their insurance paper, which, let's just say, if you work under somebody who does give you a certificate of insurance, just showing that, you are on the policy, look at it really closely, because if any of the letters are like fudgy looking, or don't really line up, you can definitely edit those in Adobe, and people will do that if they're sketchy enough. So,
Yeah, Sean Mabe. Excuse me. Bless me. I sneezed. Sorry about that. Um, guys, seriously, I understand that this is a difficult market. I understand that everyone wants to cut costs everywhere they can. I understand that when people get desperate enough, they'll do just about anything. I mean, let's face it. If you're starving and your mortal enemy offers you $10 million, you're probably going to take it and you're not going to give a shit what the hell he does in most cases. There are very few people who have the scruples to not fall for that. Well, can you take shortcuts in this industry to save money? Yep. Are they a gamble? Yep. Can you lose everything if you lose that gamble? Oh, hell yeah. Are you a scammer if you give in to those temptations? Yeah, you are. And then you're going to be chased down by people like me. You don't want that because we don't give up, Sean Mabe. And man, I'll tell you, I've been sneezing all day. This is driving me nuts.
hope you get better, man.
Sorry?
But I hope you get better, man.
Yeah, you know, the allergies have just been really bad today. You know, I got a feeling every Monday that we do one of these freestyle things, I'll just have bad allergies. You know, I mean, I just live for the day that we get to watch scammers that we've profiled, Sean Mabe, excuse me, are hauled away in handcuffs for the crap that they've done to people.
Yeah, it would be nice to see.
I get FMCSA doesn't enforce regulations, and a lot of people feel like that they are emboldened because they are currently getting away with it. Your time will come. Your time will come. And Director Bars, if you are seeing this, we have exceptionally high hopes for you. And we hope like hell you will break that cycle because you will be key in solving this problem. Man, have I done enough ranting for today?
Yeah, I think we both have.
I think Sage has gotten tired of it because he stopped making comments, but that's okay. Well, I know we don't do this very often, folks, but I will start doing it in the future on future episodes. We're going to go ahead and post the phone number whenever we are live again. So you can call in and make comments. We would definitely appreciate folks calling in and saying their piece. We'd love to hear what you have to say. If you need some advice in dealing with a fraud issue, we're happy to offer that advice on the air. Just give us a shout, 912-346-8456, and we'll do what we can to get you squared away as quickly as possible. Our whole goal is to make things better for you all in the long run. Kate and I do not get paid to do this stuff. In fact, the sponsor that we used to have, we don't have anymore. That contract expired. And as much as we love Jimmy and AccuBid Pro, we get it. It's a tough market out there and you need to use your advertising dollars well. I get it. But we still love them and we love the support they've given us over the course of the last 6 months. Boy, I'll tell you though, sometimes I am just absolutely floored with what goes on in this industry. I really am. And if you support the work that we do, feel free to show us a little bit of love. You can do that by going to my website, vigilanttransport.com. Click the yellow cup on the homepage and buy us a coffee. Go to buymeacoffee.com/stopthescampodcast and you can donate to our show and help us offset some of the costs that we have in trying to keep this for free as much as we possibly do. Kate, you got any closing thoughts as we round this out?
Not really. Keep your head up. To everybody, keep your heads up. It's going to get better. Rates are horrible, but it can't stay like this forever. It really can't.
We've been at this now for 2.5 years. I get it. The forecast is gloomy for the rest of this year, and it's not looking that great for the start of next year. But when this whole tariff thing starts going away, things will start to improve. So fingers crossed that deals get made that are good for both parties, and we can finally start seeing freight flow the way it should, and then hopefully rates will finally start coming back up. In the meantime, folks, please stay safe out there. I want to give a special shout out to our friends over the Logistics Lounge who just celebrated 2 years on the air. They had their 2-year anniversary spectacular back on Friday. So congratulations to Pedro and Hunter for their success with the Logistics Lounge. So glad to be part of their network, and happy that they're working with us. Stay safe out there. Lots of storms, especially if you're operating in the I-10 corridor along the Florida Panhandle, because it's kind of caused my power to flash a couple times today. Stay safe out there. Whatever you do, and I got to get the right banner up. There we go. Don't let scammers take you for a ride. I have a guest for next week, so take care, folks. We will see you all again next week.
Bye, guys.